welcome to the brand new edition of the Canalta Hotel's Friday Night Spotlight, presented by IKS Media. Appreciate you joining us tonight for our pregame show before the Nipawin Hawks at Humboldt Broncos game. Of course, we're going to have a look around the league as well, but we will be focusing in on those two teams specifically. And later on in the show, we're going to be joined by head coach of the Hawks, Tad Kozin, and head coach of the Broncos, Braden Klamosko. Jamie Neugebauer joins me today. Jamie, it's going to be an exciting game tonight. Two of the top teams in the league.
Yeah, obviously not too far from each other geographically, so hopefully an awesome crowd on hand tonight at the EPA as well. Both teams are coming off of wins. Both teams are feeling good. It should be an absolute doozy and tons of Saskatchewan content.
Yeah.
And I know that'll make the brass around here happy.
Absolutely. So it's going to be a great night in Humboldt at the EPA. But let's have a look around the league before we dive into the matchup a little bit more. We're going to have a look at our SAS Lotteries look back and our Elk Ridge scorecard. Of course, Jamie just mentioned it. Both these teams tonight coming off of wins earlier in the week on Tuesday. Nipawin with a 7-3 big win over the Larange Ice Wolves, and Humboldt with they snuck it out. They were down 4-2 late in the game against Kindersley. They did sneak out a 5-4 shootout victory on Tuesday night. So two big wins for these teams, but Nugsy, let's have a look at the standings because they are both near the top right now. As you can see, Humboldt sits in second, Nipawin sits in fourth, but we can see that the Weyburn Red Wings have had a great start to the year. Kindersley is right in between those two teams. Estevan's tied with Nipawin at the moment. Flin Flon has had a bit of a tough stretch here on the road, of course, but we're all sure that they'll figure it out. But they have 12 points right now. Melfort's in seventh with 11 points. Yorkton's with 11, and Melville also has 11, so three teams tied for seventh right now. Battleford's has played the fewest games in the league. They have 10 points, and then Larange and Warman rounded out at the bottom there in 11th and 12th. But Nugsy, we're going to talk about the league leaders in scoring here. As we kind of let's have a look at the divisional standings because we always like looking at them and then also shouting out our sponsors, of course. The Bungie division, we've talked about it all year, is maybe the most wide open division right now. All four teams off to pretty strong starts, but you see Estevan and Weyburn near the top there. They have been hot lately, both having some win streaks in the last couple of weeks. Nipawin leads the way in the UPL division. Of course, that's the northern division. So we see that Humboldt and Nipawin are both at the tops of their divisions, respectively. Of course, Humboldt in the Nutrien division there. So it's a great start to the year. Let's have a look at the league leaders in scoring now as we see Jacob Streetsy. He's going to be heavily featured in tonight's game against Nipawin. He leads the league in both points and goals right now, Nugsy. Anybody else on this list stand out for you?
You know what? I'm going to take that question and throw it a curveball.
Okay.
In that I think it's very interesting and very indicative of the way that the Nipawin Hawks are built that there aren't any Nipawin Hawks on this list. And that is not an insult or any negative thing to the Nipawin Hawks. There are a lot of mouths to feed. That's the way you write it, you say it, if you're looking at it negatively. But they're just so deep. They've got so much talent up front.
Yeah.
It could be a different hero every night. We saw Eric Hoynes score his first goal as a game winner against Larange as well. And the list goes on. So there's no Hawks on this list, but that is not a bad thing. That is a very good thing because how to stop all those guys, it's a tough thing.
And I think we talk about it a little bit, throughout the season so far, but we expected Nipawin's offense to be very strong, and it hasn't been weak, I don't think, but I think we're starting to maybe see some of that offense flourish. We'll talk to Tad Kozin about that in a little bit. Let's have a look at the league leaders in goaltending right now, because there is a couple of guys on this list that we probably will see featured tonight. Well, we will definitely see Charlie Tritt featured for sure. He's leading the league right now with a .951 save percentage. He's just a little bit behind Case and Kabelka in goals against, but generally, this guy's been a superstar so far early on in the season, Nugsy. And then you'll see the Nipawin Hawks have both of their goaltenders also near the bottom of the list. So we'll probably see Gage Roberts tonight. We'll confirm that with Tad in a little bit just to make sure, but sounds like it's going to be a great goalie matchup tonight.
It will, and Gage Roberts, first, he's the guy that we know better, obviously, because he was in the league last year.
Yeah.
And his coming out party was at the Elgar Petersen Arena first half of last year. We didn't think of the Nipawin Hawks the same way we do now. Went in, he got a 36 save shutout in a 1-0 Nipawin win at the Elgar Petersen Arena. I can't think of too many times at all that the Humboldt Broncos have been shut out at the EPA. It has not happened very much since the existence of time, since there were dinosaurs.
Yeah.
So Gage Roberts did something that few people could do, and that's shut out the Broncos at the EPA. So this is a matchup that's personal to him, personal to a lot of people on both sides of the war, and should be a lot of fun.
Yeah, it should be a lot of fun. Well, why don't we dive in a little bit more into this matchup then between these two top teams teams in the league. As you can see, the Humboldt Broncos have a 9-4 record coming into tonight. Nipawin with 8-3 record. Humboldt has scored a few more goals. They've also let up a couple more goals. They've played more games. You have to remember that as well as we look at these numbers. Humboldt has played 2 more games as well. So keep that in mind. But with Nipawin's goals against numbers, we'll dive into that because that is a very impressive number so far this season. The goal differential, plus 16 for Humboldt, plus 5 for Nipawin. So again, both teams, they both have winning records for a reason. Humboldt's taken a few more penalties. Again, 2 more games in there, just remember that. And then you can see the power play and penalty kill numbers down there. Both pretty impressive so far. But what stands out for you when you think about these 2 teams playing each other?
Well, for the goal differential, you know, again, the sample size is small. Nipawin came off of just a horrific weekend against the powers of the Bungie division, who are unstoppable right now, Estevan and Weyburn. So they got thumped a little bit. And, you know, the special teams is something that I'm really circling for this game. An elite power play in this league from the Nipawin Hawks. Third best in the league at 26%. Humboldt's penalty kill is maybe the best in the league, just definitely with personnel. You think about, Braden Skogstad, you think about Oakley McIlwain. These are premium penalty killers in our league. You know, you throw in the younger guys, Tice Penrod and Rylan Hugh. These guys are great at that. So, you know, then you throw in Charlie Tritt. So that's a real matchup. You know, I'm very interested to talk to Braden Klamosko about balancing being heavy and trying to lean on these skilled Nipawin players, but staying out of the penalty box, because Humboldt has had a hard time doing that at times this year as well. And if they're sitting in the box 6-7 times tonight, Humboldt, they're going to have a hard time to win because Nipawin can outscore you that way. Yeah,
absolutely. Well, speaking of Nipawin, let's see what makes them tick. Let's have a look at their team leaders right now. You got Ashton Tate leading the way. He had a big game earlier this week against the Laurent Ice Wolves. Connor Watson just continues to pump goals into the net. Will Witter has been probably the best overall player for the Nipawin Hawks in terms of just doing everything for the team this year. We'll talk to Tad a little bit more about Will. Mason Karakachuk has had a great start to the year. And then you see, Nugsy, like you kind of mentioned, though, Eric Hoynes just getting on the board. Finley Radloff is down there, you know, at the bottom of the list. And these are guys we may be expected to put some more pucks in or help put more pucks in. And Nipawin hasn't had any of those league-leading type of players yet, but overall a very balanced roster.
Yeah, I mean, Nipawin is doing fine. They're 8-3, even without kind of explosive offense that we thought of. And so as I said earlier, I think it's a good thing that they don't have one superstar to key on. Now look, you know, I was a big fan of Connor Watson before he was an offensive force that he's showing to be. He's 6'2", 6'3", 6'4", absolutely can fly, doesn't care about being fancy, he doesn't care about dangling. He'll go to the blue paint and bang it in and then cross-check you in the face. That's the type of kid he is. That's the type of kid that we make a lot of.
Saskatchewan
exactly,
boy.
You know, Spiritwood, Saskatchewan.
That was my Don Cherry.
And you know, Ashton Tate has been wonderful since he came from the Western League to Nipawin too. So look, I don't know, when Nipawin's playing their game, it is a real challenge to shut all those guys down. And, you know, obviously Nipawin has some health problems right now. We're interested to see what Tad Kozum does about that. But even then, and they called up Carson Park, the highly touted Brendan Wheat Kings prospect, who had 2 goals against Laurent at 09 birth year right away. A couple of goals, not too shabby. First goal, last goal of the game, too. On the big line right away. He trusts him, clearly. So look, this is a Nipawin team that's very fun to watch, and you should get your tickets to the EPA right now.
Yeah, Colton Scott and Gage Roberts have been playing pretty well as well in net. And like we said, they're keeping pucks out. So it's an interesting kind of juxtaposition as to what we thought they would be and what they are so far. I mean, it's very early, but that offense will start popping off
Noah
soon.
Heinrich and Justice Cutler are 2 of the least appreciated, but should be more appreciated defensemen in our league. And they have some good depth behind them. Obviously, the local boy, Raider Wallington. The Wallington family is very well established in the Nipawin community. So I'm sure they're happy to see him too.
There you go. Well, let's flip the script and go over and check out what Humboldt's got going on. Obviously, we talk about superstars in this league. They have one. Jacob Streetsy is leading the league in goals and points right now. And if you look at the bottom of the list, in the goaltenders section, Charlie Tritt is leading the league in save percentage. He's second in goals against, and he leads the league in shutouts.
3 already.
3 shutouts in 9 games for Charlie Tritt so far. And Humboldt's a team, when we look at this list of players, Nugsy, again, other than Jacob Streetsy, it's quite a balanced roster so far this season. Jacob's obviously kind of pacing the league, but under him, it's very much by committee, I would say.
Yeah, absolutely, and like obviously Jacob is the guy that jumps out as just pure offense. obviously when Connor Miller is right, he is a bull in a china shop. He is a thick, heavy kid, possesses the puck very well. And, he's not, people say, oh, he can't skate, a little slow, blah, blah. When he puts on the speed burst, he blows by guys. I don't understand what people are talking about criticizing him. But they got a lot of useful guys that do a lot of things, that work very hard. I've been a massive, massive Christian LaSalle fan this year. We talk about the Western All-Star Challenge coming up. I think Christian LaSalle is probably a name that should be there, the way that he's played. So look, there's a lot of options, a lot of good young players too, Penrod and Hugh as well. You throw them into the mix as 07s on this team. And it's a deep team. We thought they would be right at the top of the league preseason, and they've kind of shown that when they play their game.
Yeah, so. 13 games into the year, and they have, you saw that stat board with Streetsy, Miller, and Cordy on the top of it. I think they're just on Tuesday for that game against Kindersley, I saw that they finally put those three permanently on a line together. And we'll see if it sticks.
And every time they were on the ice, like they made something happen.
Yeah, so I'll be curious to see if maybe Miller and Cordy's numbers maybe jump up a little bit as well.
And the beautiful thing about that too is, and again, it's something that Braden Klamosko maybe has to think about splitting up too, because you look at Miller and you look at Cordy, and they're two of the best face-off men in the league.
Right.
Do you want that on the same line? And you can, whoever's feeling hotter, they're both right shots, but so it's not like a left or right side thing. But whoever's feeling hotter just takes it. Yeah. It feels like they always win, and that allows Jacob Streetsy a little bit of freedom to maybe cheat. Cheat's not the right word. Get out of the zone a little bit faster because he feels like they're going to win the draw.
Right.
So it stretch that neutral zone, and that's a way that Braden Klamosko has been playing for forever.
Yeah.
It's not like Jacob's not trying to play defense. That's just the way Braden Klamosko has been coaching forever.
Yeah.
So having those two guys that both win tons of faceoffs on the same line is a really neat little situation for the Humboldt Broncos. I'm sure they're happy to have it.
Well, let's wrap it up then and talk about what you think the keys for each team is going to be tonight. Let's start with Nipawin on the road at the EPA. What do you think the key for them is in tonight's game?
Yeah, I mean, I think for the Nipawin Hawks, you got to bear down and take your chances when you get them, because this Humboldt team, they will pin you in. They're heavy. They'll get you down below the hash marks. But there are odd man rushes to be made, and we saw with Kindersley was they had breakaways, they had chances, 3-on-1s, 4-on-1s, because Humboldt, they'll send 4 guys deep. They don't care.
Right.
So Nipawin, you just got to take your chances. They have the tools. They have the skill to do it. Take your chances, and the Nipawin Hawks should feel okay.
What about Humboldt?
Stay out of the box.
Stay out of the
box. The Nipawin Hawks power play is deadly. Humboldt's PK has been awesome too.
Yeah.
Talked about it earlier. But the Humboldt Broncos have gotten into too many punch-ups this season. A couple teams have, and I'm sure they know who they are. The Humboldt Broncos have a rough and tumble identity, no question about it, and that's great. Don't lose that. But find a way to stay on the line, stay on the edge, and stay out of the box. And again, it'll be an interesting thing because the Hawks love to get out in transition. The Broncos love to cycle the puck and keep it deep and be heavy. It's a really kind of juxtaposition of two styles. And which one's going to win, we'll see. But it's bear down, take your chances, and stay out of the penalty box.
Well, let's dig into the matchups a little bit more and hear from the guys themselves, the head coaches of either team. We'll start by heading out to Nipawin now to be joined by Tad Kozin of the Nipawin Hawks. Tad, thanks for joining us today. Appreciate the time. A big game tonight against the Humboldt Broncos. I guess, obviously you got off to a good start earlier this week. Can you maybe start with that? Let's talk about that 7-3 win on Tuesday night.
Yeah, we had a tough weekend going down south where obviously we weren't happy with how we played and kind of got humbled a little bit. And it was good for our group to have a weekend like that, I guess, and show that you've got to play every single night. And I mean, if you look at this league right now, anybody can beat anybody on any given night if that team doesn't play. So it showed us that, that's more true than anything. Then obviously got back on home ice there on Tuesday, and I thought we came to play. Got obviously outstanding goaltending from Colton Scott. Had Carson Park as an AP in our lineup who got 2 goals. Ashton Tate had 4 points. Connor Watson had 3 points. I thought that line was dynamite all night, and I thought everybody just played the way we needed to, and we obviously got back to our winning ways.
Yeah, for sure, Tad. Simple question for you here. We all thought you guys were going to throw a million pucks in the back of nets this year and score tons and tons of goals. And we said, would they keep the puck out? Well, you guys have allowed the 3rd fewest goals in the league, and the offense maybe hasn't been as fluent as we all thought. So, what do we know? But the question is, are you more concerned that the offense isn't working, or are you more happy with the way that you guys have kept pucks out?
I'm probably more happy with the way we've kept pucks out. We obviously know we're really happy with the 2 goaltenders we have here right now. They do a fantastic job of stopping pucks. That's their job. That's all I can say. They stop pucks, and that's what we want them to do.
Well, let's
if you want to win,
oh, yeah,
if you want to win in this league, you have to know how to defend. And I think that's the thing that is probably the best, is that we're not giving up those grade A chances and stuff like that. We know it. The offense will probably come, or is going to come. Some guys are off to a little bit of slow starts. It's different. You come back from last year, and it gets harder. We're obviously a different team than we were last year. It gets harder. So the biggest thing with that is we've been pretty happy with not giving up as many goals. Obviously, we had last weekend two nights that we gave up a lot, but the way we're playing defensively, that's how you've got to win in this league. And as long as we keep defending, and then obviously last night I thought our offense went off, and it was the best on Tuesday. It was the best we moved pucks offensively. We were getting to the right spots. We were creating offensive chances by, finding soft areas in the ice. So that, that was obviously something that we're obviously looking forward to just continuing on.
Yeah, and like you kind of mentioned, offense will come. A guy like Eric Hoynes, for example, scored his first goal of the season this week. So stuff like that, we projected a lot of these guys to maybe be putting some pucks in, and it's just getting going. So it took a little bit of time, but like you said, I don't think we're overly concerned for the long run anyways. But you mentioned the goaltending, Tad. Let's stick with those two guys. Gage Roberts may be projected to start tonight against Humboldt. We'll see how that goes, of course. But .915 save percentage for Colton Scott right now, .914 for Gage Roberts. Gage was the guy, let's stick with him for now, a guy that we kind of projected before the season to maybe be a top goaltending candidate in this league. He's that kind of guy. Just talk to me about your two goalies, maybe focus on Gage a little bit, but talk to me about your two goalies this year.
They just compete so hard on pucks. They're the hardest working guys in our practices every single day. There's nothing more you can really ask of them. Gage obviously has the 914, I think you said right now. The biggest thing with that is he had one bad weekend,
right.
2 bad games. Other than that, I think he was around that 945, 950, which is pretty remarkable to start the season. And obviously our schedule to start the year hasn't been very hectic. I mean, we don't have that many games played. We've been playing 2 games a week. We've got to keep them both engaged, because we think they're both obviously vital to the success that we want to have. And Gage is a guy that obviously battles hard, makes a lot of big saves, quick on his feet, is very, very dialed in every single day in the way he goes about his business. And he acts like a pro already. And that's going to be vital for him to continue that success throughout it. And as far as Colton goes, I mean, super quick on his feet. He's pushing Gage to be better. And I think we can all, agree that, Gage has been our guy last year. He's coming in and, he's earned everything to be our guy this year again. And the thing about you want with your backup goalie is you want him to push. And right now he's pushing him, and Colton's earned every start that he's got so far, and he's done great in them. There's nothing that we can fault there. And he came in Weyburn and, gave us a chance to get back in that hockey game by some of the saves we made, because we obviously weren't at our best. So we're obviously really happy with the 2 guys we have in net right now.
For sure. And obviously, we could go down your roster and talk about everybody, and that would be a lot of fun, but I'm sure people at home wouldn't like that, nor the producers back there. But one guy I really want to focus on, especially with the Western All-Star Challenge kind of just around the corner, is Will Witter. And it seems like he was a kid that you gave, not gave, because he earned like a lot of responsibility last year right away as a young kid, and continues into this year. And just talk about the development you've seen from him, the responsibility, the all-around player that he's becoming at such a young age.
He's just such a mature kid, and he understands how the game needs to be played. There's not many 17-year-olds, when you take them at 17, that are leading your team in points for 3/4 of the year. And this, he plays center for us. He wins faceoffs. He plays on the power play. He PKs for us. There's not many guys that are 17, 18 that get to do that on many teams. And it just shows the maturity in him and how good of a player he is, and why we drafted him where we did, and gave him that opportunity last year to grow with us. And now he's just come back, and he's even better than what he was last year. So obviously we're really excited about having, him in our lineup every single night, and just looking forward to continuing to watch him develop and be the player that we know he can be.
For sure. And then just last one from me, Tad. Obviously we got to have a word quickly about the opposition, and more specifically, Jacob Streetsy. It's no surprise to you that he's having a monster season. What's the plan to shutting a talent like that down right now in the season?
You just can't give him time and space. the biggest thing is he's good at losing himself in the offensive zone, and all of a sudden he's got the puck on his stick and it's in the back of the net. So you've got to have your head on a swivel. You've got to know where he is at all times, and just take that away time and space. Have a good stick on puck, making sure that you're finishing your checks on him. Containing him, and everybody that has years like that, they get very, very frustrated when teams are really, really hard on you. So obviously we need to make sure that we're hard on him, and don't give him that time and space where he can wind up and get that shot off, because we obviously know he's got a really good shot.
There you go. Well, Tad, a big game tonight, so lots to get to, I'm sure. So we'll let you get going, but appreciate your time today. We'll have you on SJHL Weekly or something soon for a bit of a longer chat, but appreciate your time today, Tad.
Sounds good. Thanks for having me, guys.
All right, welcome back in here. Obviously, thanks to Tad Kozin there for chatting about tonight's game, but we're going to get the other half of the story now as we head back out on the video chat line now to talk to the Humboldt Broncos head coach and general manager, Braden Klamosko. Braden, thanks for joining us today. Appreciate the time.
No problem, anytime.
So a big game tonight against Nipawin, but let's just go back really quickly earlier in the week. It was a really tight game against Kindersley, but you ended up getting the win. So a big win, and you guys are having a great start to the season so far. So let's talk about Tuesday a little bit, but you can talk about the whole season as a whole so far this season.
For sure. I thought we came out of the gates a little bit slow versus Kindersley there, a few nights ago. But, yeah, I thought as the game went on, we got our legs underneath us, and, we, had a, obviously it was 4-2 late in the game, and we're able to sneak one out. So, obviously you feel good about winning that one. Kindersley played us hard like they always have. They have lately, and it was, it's a big win for us, and, another big one here tonight.
Yeah, so just let's talk about the start to the year. Obviously, near the top of the standings at the moment, so you got to feel pretty good about the start. How does the team kind of feel like they're performing so far? About 14 or so games into the year for you guys?
Yeah, at the moment, and I think that's really important, because I think this year might be different than others, where I don't see a team that's gonna clear cut run away with it. I think there's a lot of teams that are really close that, any given night are going to win. And I know we say that every year, but this year seems, extra competitive in a lot of ways. And I think so far, obviously we like where we're at, but geez, things can change really fast, and I think that's obviously the message every night is, it's like a must win every night, and that's the cool part about this. And it's, it's fun to have games like this already in October.
Yeah.
Now, Braden, obviously we could go through your whole roster. We could go through Nipawin's whole roster, and we'd find that fun, but we don't have time for that. But I got to ask you, obviously, you had lots of special players in Battleford. You've had lots of special players in Humboldt so far, too. But probably people do circle Kean Bell there in Battleford's, and probably people are circling Jacob Streetsy now in Humboldt. So I'm wondering, how you compare and contrast them as players, and how you compare and contrast kind of how you handle talents like that, to help them be the best of themselves every night.
You know what? It's so funny. They're so alike day to day. They're always, interested, obviously, like team first. They're always team people, but they know, for the team to have a lot of success, they feel like they have to have some success too. And, it's funny because Jacob's like, you had one of the best in Kean. What would Kean do in this situation? What would you do with Kean in this situation? And, I think it's a good way to have now Jacob, where it's like, well, Kean would do this, and this is why Kean was so good. And that's why I think you could, do this in this certain situation. And they are different players in some regard. I think, Kean can be more of a playmaker, I think, when he has the puck. Strizzy's more of a scorer, I would say. Strizzy's more of a bull below the dots, and Kean, is a little bit more dynamic, I guess you could say, in that regard. But they find those special players, you got to give them a little bit of an extra leash. And it's funny because I had the same, at times you have arguments of guys, there in Battleford as they are in Humboldt, where they're like, I wish he would do a little bit more defensively. Well, yes, they obviously could, but when they have the puck on their stick in the offensive zone, I do, think that their leash is a little bit longer because of it. And I haven't had many that special in my day. And to have guys like Kean and Jacob, I've been so lucky, let's be honest, is they've been so special. And the reason why we've had, similar successes in these years is because of those type of players.
Well, if Jacob Streetsy's your leader points-wise offensively, I think we ought to look at the other end as well and talk about Charlie Tritt a little bit. He's projected to be your starting goaltender tonight against Nipawin, but boy, has he been putting up some video game numbers so far. So what is it about Charlie, 3 shutouts in 9 games so far, that has stood out to you in terms of getting to know the kid a little bit?
He's just such a worker. He comes every day and puts in, such great effort, and he gets rattled when he's letting in goals in practice. And I love the fieriness he brings every day. It brings instant intensity to practice when guys score a goal on him, and they make sure they let him know. And he does the same thing back when he stops them. So it brings the intensity to practice at another level. And it's been a great, partnership so far. And, yes, I think we've helped him in front of him, but he's made some big saves in a lot of those games too.
Yeah, for sure. And obviously he needs to be your best penalty killer, and you know that better than I do. But obviously this Nipawin roster too. You know how well Tad can coach offense and the power play.
And Tad is a dad as well.
And Tad is a dad.
Yeah.
And obviously your PK has been unbelievable this year, over 90%.
Yeah.
But you know better than me, Braden, that if you guys are in the box all night, that's not going to work out. So what's that balance? What's that tension for you? Because you want your team to be heavy and hard to play against, and that's their identity, I think. But also stay out of the box and get away from that crazy stuff, because Nipawin will kill you.
They will kill you, and I think that's obviously the line that you got to draw, and you cannot be in the box, all night versus a team like that, and you want to play, all 4 lines, and the only way to do that is by staying out of the box. So I think, even last year, late in the year, we played them, and we've had some really good games, and you knew they were going to have a good year just by the way they ended off the year last year. So, I thought our games were really fast, and a lot of plays were made, and I really hope that it is some 5-on-5 play, because that's what people come to see. It's not, in the box or whatever else. And we're going to have to obviously, be amped up and ready to go, but we also have to make sure we're careful on that side of it. So to answer your question, yes, I want us to play heavy and hard, but I want us to stay out of the box more. So it's that balancing act for sure. And, we're going to have to make sure that we're skating with them. If you're not skating with them, we'll be in the box.
Well, Braden, appreciate your time here today. We'll have you on for a longer chat soon, but this is obviously just a quick pre-gamer. So good luck with the game tonight, and we'll chat with you again soon.
Thanks, guys.
Perfect. Thank you, Braden, so much for joining us today. Now we've heard from both coaches. Nugsy, final thoughts on tonight's game.
Yeah, it'll be fun. You know what? I've talked to people in Humboldt over the years, and they're like, it's kind of a shame that this isn't a divisional matchup.
Yeah.
Just because they're close and they're such successful franchises in our league. But you have to mix it up somehow with the divisions. I get it. I understand.
Yeah.
But, this would be a wonderful playoff series, and it's going to be a really fun one.
It's a non-divisional rivalry game for sure. So it's a great opportunity right now for you to head over and get your tickets for the game if you're in the area, or get your subscription, of course, online at Flow Hockey, and you can watch all the games. Where am I? Right there. Watch all the games on Flow Hockey, and you'll be able to check out the broadcast. Maybe you're watching this on Flow Hockey, because this should be showing up for you on the Flow Hockey broadcast. We'll see about that. Fingers crossed. Maybe we want to suggest, obviously, going to the game, but if you can't, follow us on all of our social media channels. We'll have you covered either way, and make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel as well. But Nugsy, we're going to thank everybody in the back now, because it's game time. So we got to send it over to the EPA now. If you're watching on Flow Hockey, you'll soon hear the voice of Blaine Wayland, the broadcaster of the Humboldt Broncos. If you're watching on Facebook or YouTube, enjoy the game tonight, everybody, and we'll see you next time.